Greetings, peace be with you. So, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the one fear that is the cause of all other fears, and it is something that causes men to become weak. Okay, weak as in lacking the ability to create change in their life. Okay, the word power means ability, and weakness means inability when we talk about the root of the word. Okay, and this is all about expressing your personal power in order to create yourself in the vision of your highest ideals so that you can close the gap between how you're showing up in life and how you're capable of showing up in life. Why? So that you can experience the higher states of emotion like joy, like bliss, like happiness. And those are basically signals that our body's sending us to let us know that we are moving down the right path. Okay, so this is something that came to mind. I was hanging with my friends over the weekend, and I saw one of the friends after a while, and the other buddy was like, yo, Mo thinks that Coroni Cyrus, code word for the situation we're going through. He's like, yo, Mo thinks, like, he comes in, right? One of my buddies comes in with a mask. He's like putting in all this, this hand sanitizer again and again and again. And I'm like, yo, what's up? And then my buddy's like, yeah, Mo thinks that it's a fake, right? I'm like, okay, I never said it's fake. He's like, what do you mean it's fake? People are dying out here. And I was like, when has that ever not been the case? When have people ever not been dying, right? And it's not, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm not saying it's not fake. Like, I'm just saying that the situation is such that the one fear that underlies all the other fears for us, right? Whether it's fear of failure, whether it's fear of rejection, whether it's fear of success, right? Ultimately, it comes down to the fear of death. Okay, so important to consider, because this is something that if I bring up this topic amongst my family, they're like, oh, don't talk about this, you're so dark, you're so, like, you're so in that direction, like, we don't even want to talk about this, right? And this is what Mark Manson describes in his book Everything Is Effed as the uncomfortable truth, right? It's something that we all intellectually understand. Intellectually understand we're headed in that direction, but emotionally we just resist it. We just keep it on the side, and we just don't have a place in our lives for the gift of death. Okay, now why do I call it a gift? Because it is something in our life which allows us to look at everything else through the lens of whether it will be important or not. Okay, in the face of death, everything that is unimportant will fade away. And so many times we get caught up in the hustle and the bustle of being busy, right? Because we do not know what is truly important for us. Okay, and I want to share with you some wisdom from the Stoic philosopher Seneca, who I've been studying this morning. It resonated with me so much that I had to get it out there in order to embody it deeper myself, and to hopefully empower you to create the space in your life to welcome death, right? To rehearse death so that you can ultimately embrace it. And I sincerely believe that our resistance to death, the extent to which we resist death, is the extent to which we resist life. Okay? Think about that for a minute. I've been meditating on that as well. It's like whatever we resist, right? The opposite of it, we resist as well, right? If you resist being poor, then you also resist being rich, right? The extent to which you are uncomfortable being poor is the extent to which you will be uncomfortable being rich, okay? I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying that's the ultimate truth. I'm just saying that that's something I've been thinking about a lot, and it definitely applies in the context of death as well, okay? So Seneca writes in his letters to a Stoic, right? Letters from a Stoic, and I quote, "You want to live, but do you know how to live? You are scared of dying. And tell me, is the kind of life you lead really any different from being dead?" Right? It's like, yeah, we're stuck trying to avoid that, trying to escape that, even though intellectually we understand we're all headed in that direction. And as a result of that, we get trapped in survival, right? We're trying to survive death. We're trying to survive from this whole scheme that's going on, right? This whole situation. We're trying to survive. But what does that do? It takes away from our ability to thrive, right? And it's so important to consider that, in pursuit of trying to preserve our life, we actually start surviving rather than actually opening up to the possibility of us thriving towards what we are capable of, okay? And Seneca writes, "As it is with the play, So it is with life. What matters is not how long the acting lasts, but how good it is. Okay? And as Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage and all the men and women merely players, right? You are the actor, you are the producer, you are the director, you are the audience, you are everything, right? I heard a quote, I don't know who it was. He said that the world is a theater of dreams in which God is the audience, the actor, the producer, the director, everything, right? Something to think about over here. But the point is that, you don't go and watch a movie for how long it is. You're like, yeah, this movie's like 10 hours long, so it must be the best movie ever, right? It's more about what the quality of that movie actually entails. So it is with life, right? Like so many times, it's like I was discussing with a friend the other day. He's like, there's this guy and he was very careful with his health. He was like a hypochondriac and, just always trying to increase his lifespan. And okay, sure, like if you're stressed out your whole life about whether you're gonna live and still you live, right? Let's say you live to 100, but if you're like stressed out for 99 of those years, then the quality of life is not as deep as the length of the quality, right? I think depth is something that I've been exploring more and more in my life and understanding the importance of it rather than thinking about length, right? Thinking about amount, thinking about depth and how deep we can go into this experience. And that's not really dependent on the amount of experience that we had. So many of us are, like, repeating the same year of experience again and again and again. I was trapped in that cycle for a long time, and really about understanding that quality of life could perhaps be more important than the quantity of life. Okay? So Seneca writes, rehearse death. To say this is to tell a person to rehearse his freedom. A person who has learned how to die has unlearned how to be a slave. He is above, or at any rate, beyond the reach of all political powers. Okay? As I was speaking of earlier, like if we can accept death, that is when we can accept our freedom. Because at the root of every other fear that we have, I suspect, is the traces of fear, right? The traces of, something's gonna happen, something's gonna, like my life is gonna be gone, right? Like we're scared of putting a video out there because we're scared of being judged, and that is our primal caveman brain saying that if people, don't appreciate or accept or approve of your expression over here, then you might be excommunicated from the tribe. And in our caveman days, if we were excommunicated from the tribe, right, if we were banished from the tribe, that would eventually lead to death. So there's some deep primal hard wiring in our brain, which makes it so that, the average person is more afraid of public speaking than he is of death. I don't know how that is true, but I suspect the fear of public speaking in itself is rooted back in the fear of death as well, right? So rehearsing death, creating a space in your life, like knowing that, any moment you could be gone, right? The Stoics used to say memento mori, remember that, because this could be the last moment. And that can be a useful lens through which to assess whether what you are doing in this moment is actually useful. Is it actually productive? Is it actually serving your soul? Is it actually in alignment with your purpose? Or is it another escape from all of these things, right? And as Seneca writes over here, just where death is expecting you is something we cannot know. So, for your part, expect him everywhere, right? Memento mori, remember death. And the Native Americans, I think it was the Navajo, when they used to, they used to say, today is a good day to die, right? And that is something which, I cannot say at this point is true for me, because like there's so much more that I intend to create in this life. But if it is, somehow outside of my control, something happens, then it is what it is, right? And that can really be used as a benchmark for us to again assess whether what we are doing in this moment is actually in alignment with that higher purpose, with that highest ideal. Is it something that when we look back, it's something that was useful? Or was it something that was a waste, right? So important to consider. So again, Seneca writes, death. There's nothing bad about it at all, except the thing that comes before it, the fear of it, right? I think it was a comedian who said that, I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens, right? In the same way, it's like, yeah, maybe, like we think that death is scary, but we won't really be there. And what's really scary, I think, is the pain before the death, which, I've seen some people go through, which is not right. It's like just it's like a sorrowful experience for the people around. And yeah, it can be tough, but it's like Seneca says, right? There's nothing bad about death. Like death is freedom from our creations, right? Like what if, this is the waking dream and that is the dream that is the dream that, like, when we, like, this could be the dream and that could be waking up, right? Like, life could be the dream and death could be waking up. How do we know that this is waking up and that's the dream? Like, it just keeps going. But it's like understanding and creating a space for this inevitability in our life, rehearsing it so that we can consistently act in alignment with what we know to be true. Okay. And to end these quotes, Seneca writes over here: life is never incomplete if it is an honorable one. At whatever point you leave life, if you leave it in the right way, it is whole. Okay. Refuse to let the thought of death bother you. Nothing is grim when we have escaped that fear. Okay. And again, this is something which I am meditating on myself, creating a bigger space for death, like creating a daily ritual of reflecting and meditating on my death, and how much that actually emphasizes and empowers me to show up as a kinder person, as a more loving person, as a more patient person, as a more respectful person. Because, like, I could be leaving at any moment, right? Like, intellectually, yeah, sure, we're all gonna die, but like truly embodying that is where everything changes, right? And you change. That's why people, like, they change after a near-death experience. They're like, yo, nothing is going to be the same now because I've been giving the second chance. But the true reality is that every moment is another opportunity for you to grow, for you to improve, for you to level up. Like, don't take anything for granted, right? Everything is as granted. This life has been granted to you. And the problem that so many of us experience is we are entitled. And as a result of that, when we don't get the result that we want, we begin to experience those lower emotions. But everything is a gift, and everything that we're experiencing is necessary for our evolution. So create that space for death and allow it to give you that clarity in terms of what is actually important for you, and then make the decisions every single day that align with that highest ideal. Okay, so I hope that you got value from this video. I hope that you implement some action steps. Let me know in the comments below what has been your number one takeaway. Click the like button if you like this video. Subscribe if you have not already. But with all that being said, I will leave you in the peace and power of the one infinite creator, and I'll catch you in the next one. Much love to you. Take care.